Well, Zel, it feels like we're doing these back to back for our 13th episode.
Most definitely. It feels like we were just here yesterday.
And that's because we were. We are actually pre-recording this episode on the 10th of August to be released on the 18th of August because next week I'm on vacation. And we did not want to miss a week. And so Zel very graciously agreed to kind of record some back-to-back this week. And so last night we did the episode that is going to air on the 11th. And tonight we are doing the episode that is going to air on the 18th. So welcome aboard to the Star Citizen Podcast. How you doing tonight? Just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has been listening and liking and subscribing and commenting. And tonight's episode is going to be great.
Yeah, we have some plans to talk about. Things that we're working on right now. A lot of fun things for the future. We are trying to build one of the best Star Citizen communities out there. We've got a new channel that's up and coming that we're going to tell you guys about a little bit more in the near future. So, keep up with what's going on. Make sure that you come back every week. We should be announcing something in the next couple of weeks, so you guys stay tuned for that. We just did put our org together. And you want to tell everybody what the name of our org is?
I do, and so we're really excited to announce a new organization here in Star Citizen called the Explorers League, and it is going to be, and there's a lot of facets to it, but I mean primarily, kind of a science exploration, industrial-based organization that we are incredibly happy to kind of get started here with some in-game friends. And we just kind of started building out our Discord, and obviously we have a long way to go, but it's one of these things where I think we feel like we're far enough along where we should kind of say something.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that we definitely want to bring across to everybody is this is going to be a pretty awesome community, and we're excited to be working on it right now. If you have any interest in joining the Explorers League, then you can go to the RSI website and type in Explorers League, or go to the Explorers League Discord and go to your welcome page, and somebody should be there to welcome you.
Yeah, and I will be setting some links in the description of the podcast, across all the platforms. So I mean, if you're interested, in industrial-based gameplay, if you're interested in exploration and scientific-based gameplay, or even if you have some interest, of course, in combat, there's definitely going to be a security wing, the X Corps, and we're really excited. I mean, we really have gotten blessed. There's some really excellent people who have come along and wanted to participate in this, and we've really began kind of building it out in a way that I think is going to be absolutely open and welcoming. And I think, the primary thing that we're interested in, of course, always is having fun. Having an enjoyable experience. Outside of that, then, we're going to, we're going to go ahead and have some things that we do kind of on a weekly basis, and some fun events, and we're really going to try and support each other as a group, and really have some good coordinated gameplay.
Yeah, we plan on, building the Explorers League out, and just really, we have a lot of exciting things planned, and we'll kind of go into it a little bit more in the future. But you guys definitely staying tuned. If you, if you want to, go to our Discord, V is going to have the links in the description below. And, we hope to see you there. But we'll definitely have a lot more. We have a lot of interesting stuff that we have planned. So you guys stay tuned, and we'll tell you about it a little bit more in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So tonight, we have a few other things to chat about as well. And so one of the things that, Zel and I were looking at looking at the kind of the watches and thinking about kind of the content of next week that we see coming in the near future, which is, I think, kind of a lot of fun for the community last year, is the ship showdown is starting on the 15th. What do you think about that, Sal?
Yeah. It's funny that the Argo Cargo
Yeah.
won the ship showdown last year.
It was the Argo Cargo for sure. And I think it was a really, obviously it became kind of a community meme. But it does go to show you, once people can kind of get on board. And I think that they almost kind of organize these almost in like a March Madness kind of bracket sense. Am I not mistaken with that?
Yeah, it's basically it. You have the heads and whoever wins that head to head goes to the next challenger, and it's definitely a tiered bracket, kind of like how they do the NFL or March Madness. Yeah, that same way.
Yeah. So, Zel had a really good idea tonight, and I thought it would be an enjoyable one as well, is that we would kind of maybe chat about our top 5 picks for our favorite ships, and talk about each of those ships a little bit and kind of their functionality, and why they're on the list. And so what I thought might be fun, Zal, if you want, would be maybe or you could say your number 5 ship, and then we'll talk about it, and then my number 5 ship, and we'll work our way down the list to number 1s, and then maybe one honorable mention.
I'll tell you what, it's a little tough for me to come up with just 5. And, I'm gonna have to go through this and figure out what is my top 5 out of this. Probably a list of 20 that I wrote down of which one. So
that is a healthy list. No, and we can certainly, if you want to start kind of looking at ships that you probably would at least naturally exclude, like as you're kind of looking at the list of 20, if you want to begin just chatting about some ships that are kind of that at least made your list, but you decide, well, maybe this isn't going to be kind of top 5, we can chat about those ships, because that's the one thing you and I enjoy doing, is talking about ships all day long.
That's why I thought, we wouldn't have any trouble with this show.
Not at all.
Is all the different ones. I'll tell you what, just to get, I'd say my number 5 probably is going to be the Constellation Taurus.
Oh, that's a great ship, and it's certainly on my list as well.
Yeah, that's number 5. I'll have to say number 5.
It's you go.
It's no, I was just gonna say, if anybody's ever tried to, write down what their top 5 ships are. If you've run into this one, for me, it would have been probably in my top 20 list. But yeah, I'd say Taurus, definitely number 5. It's another one of those. It's a great ship. If you had a handful of ships to buy, I would say any of the constellations, but for me, the Taurus would be up there because its durability, its cargo hauling capacity, it definitely has teeth if somebody comes after you, and it's a good all-arounder. It can fill a lot of roles. So yeah, that's my top 5. That's my 5th.
Yeah, and anybody who listens to Space Short's channel, or kind of is, hears me streaming, or even on the podcast here, you're gonna hear me sing the praises of the Constellation Taurus. I adore that ship. Currently in the game, it's in a very, very unique place, and here's kind of the thing that I love to say about it. It's got a lot of pilot operated firepower. So you have 2 size 5 and 2 size 4s. That's a lot of firepower. It has enough of the strain of the Andromeda, where it does have a ton of missiles. The Andromeda is kind of another great variant where it's just a missile boat. The Taurus does have a significant amount of missiles that it's capable of carrying as well. Not quite as many as the Andromeda, but of course you have the Constellation Taurus has some other upside as well. The other thing about the Constellation Taurus, which is a little bit of unrealized potential, is the fact that it has the utility slot, which is going to be a tractor beam. And so, certainly as 318 gets ramped up, and you and I have talked about that, and tractor beams are going to be very important for industrial gameplay, and it's actually positioned in a way where it can actually serve the belly, the belly cargo bay that drops out of it. And the belly cargo bay that drops out of the Taurus is fairly substantial. I mean, you can at least get 2 ROCs, and potentially, if I'm not mistaken, you might be close to 3 ROCs back to back to back on that thing. Absolutely 2. And a little bit of wiggle room, though, for sure. So it is versatility is really fantastic. Now here's the real kicker, right? It has 174 SCU that it can carry. So it's a gunboat that has a lot of SCU hauling capability. So when you're doing something like a lot of prospector mining, like I do, or you're doing a lot of even a couple of mole runs, it's gonna be a very effective use case. So it's got a ton of versatility. The Constellation Taurus is one of the ships that I actually own. Now, I did purchase it when it was at the $150 price point, and I think it's at the $190 price point now. So it's gained a little bit. But yeah, I love the Constellation Taurus. I think, whether or not it stands the test of time, certainly in today's gameplay, it's in a unique position where it has a lot more SCU than, you kind of have like your Cutlass Black, at 46, and then your Freelancer at 66, and then you have that range of ships that are 96 SCU. The Andromeda comes to mind, and the Raft. But then you have the MSR, which is a 114, very good ship. The Freelancer Max is in the 120 range, but then it's an actual fairly significant jump to the Constellation Taurus at 174 SCU. So it's there's a couple of other things I always like to say about the Taurus as well, and sorry to be so long-winded on it. It's one of my favorite ships in the game. Is 174 SCUs about the perfect amount of Quantanium, where if you begin losing more, like if you happen to have some kind of a server glitch, or 30k protection doesn't help you, or somehow or another, somebody blows it, like if you're running C2 load.
Or if you just crash trying to go
You just
trying to go
crash.
into the hangar bay at Area 18.
Right. You're going to lose a tremendous amount. So 174 SCU, so that top end amount, you know what I mean?
No, it's it's something that we spoke about before. You have those days where you're tempted, when you're at the refinery and you look on the list, you're like, Taurus C2, Taurus C2. It's like, well, I could get it all in one run if I was in the C2. And then you're like, yeah, something's going to happen. You know it. I know it. And that's going to be 3 days of work down the tubes.
Yeah.
And, it's like slow and steady wins the race, my son. So, yeah, the Taurus is, in our opinion, the best all around. The best all around if you're going to do quantanium hauling. So, that's why I have it at my number 5.
And on my list, I actually have that as the number 2 ship, just to kind of...
Oh, really?
Yeah, to give you an idea of how important I think it is in today's current meta. Last thing I'll say as an honorable mention to the Taurus specifically is it's got a ton of hull health. Good shields. It's a stout ship. And the last thing I do want to say about the Taurus really quickly is there is that far back area that normally contains the snub, but they have said many times that the Taurus is going to have shielded cargo.
Yep, it's going to be your little smuggler hold.
Yep, meaning that you may have something, like somebody comes along and scans you, they might say, oh, he's got nothing, but really you might have some very, very nice stuff in that back room that's kind of shielded. So, and they actually really have, you can tell they have, like the flooring in there is the cargo grid stuff.
Yep, it's cargo grid. That's one of the things, right? Are we going to get to the point where, depending, smuggling's always kind of a cool thing, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of be that Han Solo type. Are they ever gonna, come up with, some sort of commodity or some sort of, transportable items that you could put in that cargo hold that would be worth the trip? It's a non-scannable area, but it isn't that big. I forgot how many SCU that will fit back there. Maybe
20 or maybe 15.
Yeah, maybe 20.
12, something.
I was going to say 15, but maybe 20. So 20 SCU
at the most
of smuggable cargo. What cargo is going to have the value, that kind of value, that 20 SCU is going to be worth your time?
It's an excellent question, and I know, of course, naturally, one thinks when they think are, small amounts of cargo for lots of profit, you generally will lean towards the less favorable, kind of items that, that the law will frown upon, and so, but I would like to see definitely some things like, potentially, now that's not, it doesn't have servers back there, but, maybe there are some data or some other things, that are just not large, but yeah, something that would have, quite a bit of value, that you may be able to get it in some remote system and haul it, for great reward. And of course, the idea being if somebody happens to scan your ship and, well, that guy's not hauling anything, let's just let him go.
Right.
It would be the idea. Now they may think, well, there's that little bit of space back there, maybe we should board him and look. But not necessarily. You're not always thinking. Constellation. One thing I like to say, and I absolutely love the Freelancer Max. I think it's a great ship, and I used it as my main cargo hauler for a long time. But there's no doubt what you're doing. In the Freelancer Max, it's nobody's, and I mean this in the most respectful sense. No one's scared of that ship. No one's going to be worried about, kind of stopping that, interdicting it, and boarding it if necessary. A Connie Taurus, it's at least another, degree of safety, by a factor. There's just a lot more ship there.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's been a couple of times that I've tanked my way out of a situation. And I had those size 4, size 5 cannons on it. And if anybody wants to get close, this thing is going to put a beating on you. So I even had it set up where I had one of the lower size 4 with a disruptor on it, and using those cannons to pop those shields off, and then pop them with those disruptors. That worked pretty well a couple of patches ago. But yeah, I'll tell you this. When I know that I'm going to get into a hairy situation and I have to have a multi-crew ship, the first thing I think of is the Taurus. I know I put the FR 86 shields on the thing. It's got two dual shields. I put those military grade FRs on it.
Yep.
And it has just a crap ton of hit points.
Yes.
And there's been several times that I've had 3 or 4 ships on me and just wailing on it, and I had enough to be able to take at least one of the other ships out before I decided to hit the trail. So it's one of those ships that I feel really confident in.
It's got margin.
I know, yeah.
Yes, it's got margin.
I know, yeah, it does turn like a school bus.
Fair enough.
But, it does have some shortcomings, don't get me wrong. But, you put those shields to full, and you can punch your way out of a situation. That is for sure. That's why it is definitely one of my favorite ships.
All right. Well, I think we've definitely espoused the value of that one, and I love that ship. So it shouldn't be lost on anybody. I know people hear me heralding. So moving on. What else? What else you got?
Well, let's see. I went first this last time. What's your number 4?
So probably should speak to my number 5 because that was my number 2.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah, no worries. So
What's your number 5?
Now here is the one ship, because one of the things that I kind of, when I was making my list, I definitely was thinking about today's gameplay more than say things around the corner or future ships, and that type of thing. So my number 5 is actually going to be the Terrapin, and it's the one time I let myself kind of think about the future. I mean, the Terrapin to me. It represents a type of gameplay that's going to be terribly important to me, which is, just kind of locating resources. So first of all, let me just speak to I love the turtle. I mean, I absolutely, especially, I can imagine someday when armor's a thing. I actually, the turtle is one of those ships where, I really do hope that at some point there's a little bit of modularity in there where maybe you could, change the interior a little bit. But right now, the fact that it's got the amazing, it's going to have this amazing capability of being able to locate things. That's That's what the Terrapins, represents to me. So as somebody who loves to mine, somebody who loves resource acquisition, somebody who loves, I do think that the Terrapin is going to be one of those really special, get out there and find it type of ships. That's going to be, a very important ship when locating resources.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, you pull that one out. The Terrapin is one of those sleepers that you don't think about right offhand, but once you say it, you're like, yeah, that's a pretty good little ship. It being completely heavily armored.
Yes.
And once long-range scanning becomes a thing, then this ship is going to come into its own. Where, with its size and maneuverability, and to be able to get into those areas and scan, and have long-range scans, and send that data back, is going to become very valuable. And then the very fact that it's heavily armored, we don't have armor in the game right now, but when it does get into the game, this thing's going to be a little tank too, where you're not going to fight with it, but you can bust your way out of trouble with it. So yeah, it's a good little ship. I can't wait for long range scanning to be a thing.
And you do wonder also, like with the armor, some of the systems are going to be quite hostile environmentally, as well. And so that's the other thing that armor may really pay dividends on is, for instance, I know in Pyro they're going to have sun flares. I think is that how they described them? Sun flares?
Yeah, they're going to have solar flares.
Solar flares, yeah, exactly. And so, like a ship like the Terrapin is, that's designed for exploration, potentially is going to have some additional shielding, inside the armor that can help deal with that kind of thing. So, yeah, anyways, the Terrapin is my number 5 ship. It's the one ship that's on my list that maybe doesn't have in-game capability to the extent that it should, but it is one of those ships where I just have fallen in love with that ship, flying it around. I just love the way it looks. I really like the VTOL power on that thing is crazy, and I can really imagine taking that ship into almost any kind of atmosphere. It just seems like that type of ship. It's just got a durability about it that's, that just feels safe in the very unsafe vacuum of space.
Well, what's going to be pretty great in the future when, when all these things, get their final passes, and the ship reworks, when the armor comes into the game, when they do the rework on the shielding, and when most of the gameplay gets built out, all these ships are going to be designed for a specific function. I know a lot of people, you kind of look at the ship and go, it can't really do anything. You can't dogfight with it. It doesn't, it doesn't scan any better or worse than any other ship in the game. It's, everything is kind of set to that default state right now.
Yes.
So when you look at the ship, you're like, it doesn't do anything special. But in the future, you might need to start rethinking, your ship choices, when it has something to do with the environment you're going to be in. Every ship is going to have, its own practical application. And the Terrapin is going to be one of those where, you got a hostile environment that you need to go, and explore a little bit, scan the area, you're going to want to take something like the Terrapin. Like you said, take it to a hostile system. And what I mean hostile environment wise. And you're not going to want to take your 600i into that because it's not going to be able to take the beating like the Terrapin could. So these are things that we kind of need to be thinking about what their use is going to be for the future.
Absolutely.
And not just, it's like, well, it didn't cargo haul very well. It doesn't dogfight very well. And, it can't scan, it can't do what it was built for. And a lot of these ships, the designers already have an idea of their use case for a lot of these things that, when you look at them now, they're just kind of like, eh. So it's definitely one of those ships that I think is going to be pretty cool in the future. And did I ever tell you that little story the first time I bought a Terrapin?
No, tell me it.
And so I went out and we were looking for, it was one of those things where we were doing a lot of the when scanning changed, we were kind of going through the different ships to see if any of the scanning behavior had changed.
Yeah, I bought one then too.
Yep. And so I went to go. You had to buy it at Area 18, right? So went to Area 18, bought the thing, and went to the terminal, spawned it, went to the hangar, and it was spawned upside down.
Oh, it's a turtle upside down. Yeah, that's...
Turtle upside down. And, it took about 10 seconds, and then I thought about it, and the irony dawned on me.
That is really funny.
It was a turtle that was spawned upside down. It was completely on its back, landing gear up, and it, was doing that kind of that bouncy thing, and the hull was turning orange, and I just thought to myself, how funny was that? Is first time I ever spawned it, spawned on its back. So yeah,
that funny.
Was kind of a funny little thing.
One last thing I'd like to say about the Terrapin before we move on is, speaking of possibilities, is, I think a lot about kind of what my future life what I would enjoy doing in Star Citizen. And I can tell you point blank, and I think part of this comes from, you and I have talked about this quite a bit, Zel. Like in Star Wars Galaxies, how you used to have to go out and kind of find those locations and, to put your harvester fleets and that type of thing. I really would love to just fly the Terrapin around and mark rocks. Just find really, really awesome things to mine, and then just tag them and upload them to some central computer, and then just sell them, through, hopefully organizations have their own central computer units that you can actually store information, where all of the miners in, say, the Explorers League could, we could have a bunch of scouts that are out that day just kind of tagging rocks. And then, if you're a miner, you could kind of go in and like, hey, I'm going to pull my 5 tags to go, to go out and actually mine the rocks. So, I really hope it gets that specialized, right? Where you have the things that are scouting, tagging. You might log in 3 hours later and, download 2 or 3 locations, and go mine them. So yeah, that's just speaks to a future gameplay loop that I absolutely hope the Terrapin's capable of. And so possibilities is
absolutely
as we begin to move on.
It definitely is a cool ship. It kind of ticks a lot of those boxes that we love. That industrial style ship.
Yes.
I know here in my list that there's a couple of non-industrial ships in that list, but yeah, it definitely ticks those boxes. That's a sleeper, man. You kind of pulled that one out on me.
Yeah, so moving on, I think so. Now that we've done our fives, and your five happened to be my number two, let's move on to fours. What's your number four ship, if you're looking at your list, or maybe the next ship that you feel like really you want to mention?
I'd say my number. This is a toughie. This is really tough. Banu Defender.
Ooh, good choice.
It is.
I want to admit one thing to you before you go
What's
into.
that?
I have not flown the Banu yet.
Really?
I've not flown the Defender yet. I have, seen the Defender. I've watched videos of people using the Defender, and I really do think the Defender is going to become one of the premier pyro fighters, just because of its endless gas tanks. And you and I have spoken about that, but I'll let you riff on the Defender for a while. But no, I just wanted to admit that right off the bat. I haven't flown it.
Well, if anybody is, ever flown this, then why it's in my top five. And for those of you that, haven't had the chance to fly this thing, it is a must own. It absolutely is. It's, it's fair. We don't get into ship combat all that often. But the Defender is definitely one of those ships that just flies so great that it sometimes ends up being my go-to if I'm just flying between stations, or if I need to go do a quick pickup somewhere, is that I can put those. It has gigantic tanks on it, so you can equip it with the VK00, and then it also comes with a size 2 shield. So you put and so it is definitely pretty durable, and that you can put if you take off these, you can get the size 2 guns on the thing. So you got 4. You can put I think you can take off these, you put the big size 3s on it, so you can have
take off the gimbals and
take off the gimbals and have 4 size 3s.
4 size 3s. Wow.
Yep. And then you roll in and you put that FR76 in. It's a size 2 shield. A lot of people say, really the Defender, a lot of people think that it's still classified as a small fighter.
It is.
And, if you if you can believe that. And then, so the build out that I usually go with, you get the 4 size 3s, you put the FR76 size 2 shields on it, and then you put the SJ300s. You got 2 SJ300s, and then you can put the VK00 quantum drive on it. And you can, which is like one of the fastest quantum drives in the game. That thing hauls butt. So you can fly from Area 18 to Microtech and back to Area 18 on a tank and still have about a quarter fuel left. So, with that particular setup, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I just want to, as you're kind of collecting some more thoughts on it, I want to say, I haven't flown the Banu Defender, but I have an enormous amount of respect for it, and here's why. Of course, the the firepower you've spoken to already, and it being considered a small ship. It's having the larger shield generators is enormously important. I mean, it's a much more stout ship, at the shield level, and it needs to be, because it's not quite as it's very maneuverable, but not quite as maneuverable as your other smalls, and rightfully so. I mean, there's got to be some trade-off, but it is that it's very important to understand, and I'm not sure that even I understand it as much as we probably should, but Pyro is a much, much larger system than Stanton. And there are going to be some of your small fighters that are going to struggle to get from one side of Pyro to another. Or they're just not going to have the range, so they're going to require something like a Liberator to carry them. And so you're just not going to be as efficient as if you just flew a Defender, and and you were speaking to the fact that even with a VK00 on it, which is this super fast short range, it's a short range drive. Its top end is fantastic, but it just is very, very thirsty drive. You have an enormous amount of range on it, but if you can imagine putting more of a medium, or like an Atlas, or something along, that type of thing, that's has a lot of range. I mean, it may take you a little while to get there, but you're not going to necessarily have to arrange transport for that ship, and which it really, to me, like, I think the Defender is going to be one of those ships that all of a sudden, very slowly, maybe not at first, but very slowly will gain popularity in the Pyro system, depending on how long Pyro's out before they put out Nyx. I have a feeling that's just going to be, it's going to be one of those fighters that you just see all the time there, because of that particular aspect, is that it's got gas for days.
Well, here's the thing. Even with that bonkers drive on it, you got a max distance with the VK00 inside the Defender. You have 127 million kilometers that you can get out of a tank of gas.
It's crazy.
Or a tank of quantum. And the very fact that it moves at 283 kilometers a second with the drive on it. So you are hauling buns in this thing.
Yes.
The fact that it, has a size 2 shield, you can put the two JS300s on it to give you a lot more power for those guns, for the 4 size 3 guns. And I go back and forth. It hasn't been in the 317 era of patches, the cannons haven't been the good way to go. I know if you're doing ERT missions or something like that, where you're fighting against NPCs, you definitely want to do the cannon loadout. And I usually go with the FL was it the FL33? Yeah, the FL33s. And sometimes I also run the Omni Sky 9s. But if I feel like I might be getting into kind of and then I'd run the front 2 with the cannons, and then the bottom 2s I would run with the sucker punches, disruptors on them.
Yes.
And that actually was a really good build out if you're wanting to do NPC bounties, because this thing super fast. You can move between your bounties. I mean, you could do a whole list of bounties, and then with the size 2 shields on it, it really was very tanky as well. I'd say it's really maneuverable. It's definitely not on the... It's not the same as, say, an Arrow or a Gladius, but is pretty maneuverable. And it has excellent flight characteristics and atmosphere. So it is definitely my go-to for a fighter. If I thought I was going to be doing kind of PvP dogfighting, I may roll back into my Gladius, but that's rare. The reason I like the Defender, it's pretty versatile.
Right.
It has a ramp that you can kind of go up into, and it doesn't have a lot of internal storage, but I was able to cram a crap load of crates in the interior. So like if we go do bunker missions or something like that, and you pulled off a bunch of armor or crates, and you could stuff that thing full of crates. And when the cargo refactor comes in, and a lot of these crates, it's not so buggy and the things are more physicalized, then you could probably stuff it full of stuff. So in that sense, I feel like it's a very versatile ship. I love to fly it. It's it's unique looking. It does kind of have that crab look to it, I guess, in a way. But it's just, I feel like it's got a lot of character, and it's just a great little ship to fly. It's another one of those, and this is kind of a running thing with me. I kind of choose ships that have versatility, that you can do a lot of things with. And the fact that you could load the ship up, and like you were saying, a lot of people may not, may take this kind of for granted, but even if you wanted to get a little bit better fuel efficiency, you could probably drop down to the Atlas and fly all over Pyro, no sweat, which you will not be able to do in a Gladius or an Arrow.
That's exactly right.
That is for sure.
You're going to need transport with those little ships.
So if you wanted a fighter that could make the run, Defender would probably be the way to go.
I think well said, and I think that's like I agree 100%. I think when Pyro gets rolling, that Defender is going to be a key vessel for bounty hunting and for just for security operations, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's in a lot of people's hands. It's got gas for days. It really does.
And it flies just so well. It's a good flying ship. I recommend it to a lot of people. Yeah, it's a little bit more on the pricier side as fighters go. But like I said, I feel like you're kind of paying for the versatility of this thing more than it just fulfilling a specific role like the Gladius or the Arrow does.
Right.
So, what's your number 4?
So my number 4, and of course I really like all these ships, but I'm going to go with the M2 Hercules. And there's a couple of reasons why. And of course the C2 variant has the maximum cargo 699, and the C2 is a lovely ship. The reason that I would choose the M2 over the C2 is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I really do look at the M2's 52 SCU of Quantanium of hauling is fairly fantastic. I mean, it definitely hauls an awful lot. I think I don't know if it's 526 or 552 or whatever it is.
522.
Yeah, 522. Thank you for correcting me. It's a very, very, that's a lot of room. It also has the same amount of real estate as the C2 when it comes to, say, loading vehicles. So here's the one, so you're going to get lots of ROCs. If you're doing some kind of a surface mining operation, you're going to have some really, really interesting benefits I think that the M2 has over the C2, and the fact that you're going to have jump seats, an armory, and one of the things that has really turned my head is the fact that it's got the environmental suit storage. It's got the armor suit storage. So if you wanted to have, if you're having, a surface mining operation, where you're bringing a lot of ROCs or ROCDSs, and a fairly healthy crew, contingent of people, you are going to be able to have seating for them. You're going to have storage where you're going to be able to store Pembrokes or Novikovs. And one of the things that, like we spoke about the Terrapin, that's not in the game yet, is the armor. The M2 is more the armored up version of, so you were speaking like it's like how it's going to be kind of a recurring theme is some versatility in a lot of the ships that we choose. To me, the M2 is kind of the really cool variant of that. The pedigree of it is, it's a little more up armored. It's got a little bit more powerful thrusters. It does have jump seats for, it's got the environmental suit storage. It's got an armory. So it's definitely just, and these, anybody who's flown the C2, M2, A2, they know these things fly like fighters, but they're huge ships. Yeah. I mean,
look, we were, the other night when we're all together and we're talking about it, and I made the statement, and I hate to say it, they're almost OP for their size and their maneuverability.
Yeah, the maneuvering thrusters that Crusader put out are second to none in the verse.
It just fell out of my top 5. I have to say, it is definitely one of my favorite ships for all those reasons that you said. And the very fact that it has 8 size 4 guns as well. And then when the ship rework comes about and has and armor is a thing, then this ship is going to become very durable.
Yes,
because it's heavily armored. That's its that's its shtick. That it can land in hot zones, deliver a couple of tanks or a couple of vehicles, and take off again.
Take a little bit of a beating while it's getting in there and getting out of there.
But for our gameplay, we use the M2 a lot. It is one of our go-tos quite a bit. It's an awesome ship, and it flies so great.
Yep.
It really does. And if you have enough folks on board to man all the turrets, then you have the front pilot controlled, you have a gunner control, so you have the remote main, remote rear, and the remote nose. So you can defend yourself. It's not going to be the best dogfighter because it does have some blind spots.
They do. The seat
at the very top.
Yep, top and back.
But the beauty of it is that it has decent enough maneuverability to kind of get yourself out of a pickle. You're not going to go. You're not going to go. One-on-one with some fighters, but it should be able to punch its way out of a bad situation.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's an awesome one, and it just barely made the top 5 for me. It would probably be my 6.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I just want to say is, like, if you wanted to have like an ROC mining operation where you had 2 4-man ROC teams. So you have 8 ROCs on that thing. You have the jump seats, and the seating to accommodate all of those ROC pilots. They can actually flex to the turrets while you're kind of, heading to and from, locations. But you literally can have, it's of course all of those variants have the front and back loading. So you can actually field 2 4-man ROC teams with that one vessel. I mean, it is a very, very good, versatile, tanky, especially like we talked about, in that when it gets, that armor becomes a thing. We know that they're fantastic in atmosphere. So if the atmospheric conditions, in some places, there's a little more gravity or crush, they're gonna handle it just fine. I mean, it's just a workhorse. I think is probably the thing that I like the most about it, and it's also just got some cool military accommodations with it as well, and yeah, it's right there.
So I think I'm trying to think of how many. That last time we went ROC mining, and we had about 20 guys with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to remember, and I know we loaded them down. Did we get 8-9 ROCs crammed in there in each M2?
It can absolutely carry 8 ROCs.
Yeah. I think we had 1 or 2 that was, probably kind of crammed in there off to the side up on a wall, but yeah, I think we got all those guys. I don't know if all 20 of us went mining or all 20 of us was in an ROC, but I know that at least 17, 18 were.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we had some scouts that night and some other, kind of, some people were kind of, load mastering here and there or whatever, because a lot of our, we just like to have fun, I mean, we're trying to be as efficient as possible, but we definitely were. I think the last time we were out, we're using the prospector to break the Hadnite nodes and just using the, using the ROCs to scoop, so. We kind of we like to have fun, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, M2 is my number 4, and versatility all around with that guy.
Well, I'm gonna have to say I'm kind of toot my horn. That was one of those things. I'll probably have to say I'm probably one of the first people to ever break Hadnite with an impact laser successfully.
It's not it's a very feathery touch you need to have. It's so funny. I mean, with the prospector you can break Hadnite, which is an ROC consumable. But you just turn the laser on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Just feather it back and forth until and you'll know in a hurry if you overcook it. But if you do it right, you absolutely can do it. But yeah, the impact is a whole other. Most of the time when I do it, of course, I'm flying around with Lancets. So I know Zel actually did a really fabulous job at. We have our prospector breaking teams, and was working on making. If you have 2 different prospectors there and they both have Lancets, it's absolutely doable. But it's a little slow, right? It's just there. It doesn't. You're not as efficient as if what we found out, and with Zel did some science on it. If one of those prospectors has an impact on it, in some different consumables, an impact kind of coupled with the Lancet, there's just a faster braking pair.
Yep. So. The impact chews through the rock. It just absolutely chews through it, and you have the Lancet there to give. With the builds that we were running, we had a lot of stability modules and a lot of kind of the build out was to also make the your green window a little bit bigger, your optimal range, and then just having the Lancet there as another stabilizing factor, which absolutely brings it back down right in line where it needs to be. It's a perfect pairing. If you're wanting to be efficient and absolutely chew through some rock that's the pair to go with. We were doing some pretty good work with it. That last little bit, we need to start getting back on our
training nights, yeah.
On our training nights and start building that efficiency back.
Yeah, and I think just it's funny you mentioned it. I know not to speak too much to this business, we'll move on. But I was definitely thinking, in the X-League, we definitely need to kind of gather up all of our prospector pilots and kind of pair them off and get get back to the basics and teach people how to work together as teams and that type of thing. And I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff. It's
absolutely.
It's
we're gonna have a lot of new people, and we really need to start getting back to training. That is for sure. Where are we at? Number 4?
Number 3 is now, I think, and you're up. So we've my 5 was the Terrapin, your 5 was the Taurus. My 4 was the M2 Hercules.
My 4 was the Defender.
Your 4 was the Defender. And
right.
Now we're on to 3s. It's your turn.
3. What is my number 3? It's a tricky one. Well, I'm going to have to say the Mercury Star Runner.
It's so funny. I debated with my 3 is not the Mercury Star Runner. And it didn't make my list. But yeah, I really can see why, that. I mean, it's an excellent choice.
To me, it's just a fantastic ship. It ticks a lot of the emotional boxes for me. I definitely see it as as definitely that definitely has that Millennium Falcon feel to it.
Absolutely.
I find it, if you have a couple of buddies on board, it's one of the better multi-crew ships with a couple of friends. When it's gameplay, when they finally figure out its gameplay, being able to be a data runner, and a lot of people don't really understand what that is that in the Star Citizen universe, we don't have faster than light travel, nor do we have faster than light communications, but we do have sublight travel. And since everything in the Star Citizen universe is going to be connected by wormholes, which are the jump points, to get communication from one system to the other is going to be sort of like how the Pony Express used to work back in the Old West.
Excellent point.
Where you receive that data, the very fact that it's built for speed, so you're hauling butt to a jump point, taking it to the next system, transmitting the data to the comm array there, and then somebody else picks it up and then takes it to the next system, and then it finally finds its way to where it needs to go. So I'm very interested to see, that and just also, it's not going to be like the Herald in a way but I think they kind of kind of do the same thing in a way where they can also hack data and be able to, kind of smuggle data or collect data and sell it to the highest bidder. And it also has a smuggler hold too.
The Herald
So
does?
no, the Star Runner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Star Runner does.
Yeah, it has its own little smuggler holds and its own little secret passages, which is kind of neat.
It does.
And yeah, it's just a great little ship. It's for my running around the verse, if I'm not in the Banu Defender, I'm in the Star Runner. It definitely is great. And when they do the the Star Runner is going to be another one of those ships that they're going to do an interior rework on, and they're going to put a lift in between where the cockpit is, and there's a space in between there that they're going to add a lift to it. So you don't, as much as I like the ship, one of its problems is going through that back ramp, up a ladder, through about 6 doors until you get to the cockpit.
Yeah, a ramp, a lift, and a bunch of doors. Exactly.
Yeah, that's its shortcomings. Once they put that lift in up in that space between the interior of the ship and the cockpit, and put that lift in there, it'll be the perfect ship, in my opinion.
I want to say a couple things about the MSR that are, probably going to be, catch some people by surprise. So when the MSR was kind of being touted as just about to be released, and then it was released, it was so flavor of the month. Honestly, like, so many people were in love with it. I didn't look at it at all. Like, I definitely recognized the natural aesthetic, that it was kind of an homage to the Millennium Falcon, and of course, I also did absolutely have a lot of respect for the fact that it was there was some versatility there. That it was a data runner, is one of its capabilities. And so the Star Runner for me just kind of, was, a ship I'd seen. I go, I'm glad that so many different people have found a ship that they enjoy, But I was on Urkel one night just kind of looking at a couple of things, and I started really taking a look at the MSR on paper, and I was like, you know what? There's a lot to this ship. So as I began to kind of, really take a look, and one of the things that's very important to me, I think shouldn't be lost on people, is how, how versatile ships are. And so I knew that people were using MSRs as ROC haulers. I knew that some people were using MSR as their main Quantanium haulers. And it's got a sneaky amount of cargo. 114 SCU is nothing to sneeze at. It's above that 90. It has more than a raft. It can carry more than a raft. It can carry more than a Constellation Andromeda. There's all these, these 96 SCU ships. The MSR is above that at 114 SCU. So it's got the data running capabilities. It's got it's just a great ship. And of course, the more I flew the M2 and the C2, I eventually did. Right before 317.2 dropped, I did buy the MSR and really enjoyed the ship. It's a great ship. I understand infinitely now why somebody would make that their daily driver. And I have an enormous amount of respect for that ship as being incredibly versatile, fast. And here's the one thing I like to say about it. It's a much more expensive ship than, say, a Freelancer Max. But if you're hauling 114 SCU of Quantanium, in the MSR from one spot to another, that's quite a bit of money. You got a million AUEC on board. But I never think to myself, oh, they're hauling Quantanium. Like, it's a sneaky ship in that capacity. Like, it flies by you. It can have 114 SCU on board, and you're not really thinking about it it doesn't look like lunch,
No.
at all. You know what I mean? It's not an easy, So yeah, so I 100% agree with that decision. I think it was a great selection. I have a ton of respect for the MSR, and I didn't start out from a place of respect for the MSR. Not that I didn't, it's just like I said, it was so flavor of the month. I just kind of didn't really pay that close of attention. But later on, when I took a look at it on paper, and then through the through flying the M2 and the C2, really beginning to like Crusader ships, flew it, and it's a great ship, and what an awesome choice.
It really is, and you spoke to it. It really has. It's another one of those. Like I said, for me, it's a reoccurring theme that I choose things that have a lot of versatility to it, and the way you can spec, the Mercury out. You put the XL1 drive on it, and
Yep.
it goes 260,000 kilometers a second with a max range of 406 million kilometers on a tank of fuel. That is phenomenal. I mean, you are traveling. That is for sure. It's got two size shields on it. You put the FR-76s on the thing, have a ton of hit points. It has a nose gun, and then it has an upper and lower turret, just like the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
And then it has about 6 missiles, I believe, 6 missiles on it. So it's pretty capable. I think they nerfed it a little bit after it first came out, because it was pretty formidable. You could really do some dogfighting in it, but they nerfed it a little bit, and it's not as powerful as it used to be. But I guess it's one of the things, the things we had spoken about before, about the idea that ships in the game are kind of purpose built, and this one is built to get away. It isn't built to stay and fight. It's built to get away. So, and I can respect that. I mean, we all like to have those ships that seem a little OP, and a lot of the Crusader ships kind of did. I'll have to admit, I'm kind of a Crusader fanboy. I can't wait for them to come up with a few other Crusader style ships. A fighter and maybe some kind of industrial ship would be pretty awesome. But yeah, that's the thing with the Star Runner. I think to me, I think it's sexy. It has its versatility. It's going to be able to do a lot of things in the future. I mean, data running, however that works out. Like you said, it has a very, very respectable cargo.
Absolutely, 114 SC.
I mean,
nothing to sneeze at.
No, and it's kind of funny. I mean, you're bringing, when you were kind of comparing it to some of the other ships like the Raft, that was a kind of a disappointment for me. That the Raft didn't have, more cargo capacity than it did. Same thing with like the Hull A. It was shockingly low comparative to what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
So
and one of the things that remains to be seen, and man, you'd sure think we'd start getting some eyeballs on that fairly soon, would be the fact that, is this, and you and I have talked about this a lot, is that external cargo, is it going to be that much faster to load than the internal cargo? And by all accounts, it should be, right? I mean, you should just be able to, that raft should just come in, drop those 4 big containers, pick up 4 other big containers, and off it goes, as opposed to having to maybe deal with things at a different level.
Yep.
Same with the Hull A. I mean, if these ships, if they're having that cargo on the outside and being, it allows them to kind of twice as fast, or hopefully even, maybe even more than twice as fast, land, drop cargo, and pick up cargo. That's where those ships are gonna, really make their bread and butter. And really, if they don't have that capability, I mean, if it's in the ballpark even, I hate to say this, outside of aesthetics, a reasonable argument's gonna be made that, why would you? And I hope that we don't come to that. I really hope that they do. This external cargo is going to be much faster, and that's why you would choose to fly something like the raft.
Yeah. Just a little side.
Yeah.
But yeah. Man, we'll have to wait and see. We'll know in the next couple months.
We will.
But yeah. So for me, my number 3 slot goes to the Mercury Star Runner.
Well, my number 3 slot is going to kind of floor you probably a little bit, but I want you to hear me out. So my number 3 ship is actually going to be the Origin 135C. And I'm sure that's kind of a, probably not everybody else's, would not make their top 5. But the thing that I absolutely adore about the 100 series of the Origin is the air system. That air system where they have this incredible capability of just refilling their own hydrogen makes the 135C, in my opinion, one of the most versatile scouting ships for planetary surveying and scouting. I cannot run that ship out of fuel. When you will not, all you have to do is stop and let it just fill back up. It can fly endlessly in atmospheres. And that, to me, that level of versatility is so important in the scouting game. In my opinion, and I will also say that aesthetically, I do like the 100 series. I've enjoyed the 100 series. The way that it flies is great. It's had its problems as far as the way that it's behaved. From a functional standpoint, I know that there's been some coding issues and that type of thing. But that's my number 3 ship, and it's primarily based on the very pragmatic concept of it never running out of hydrogen fuel. I think I left Zel stunned on that one.
I couldn't find my mute button. No. Yeah, that is surprising. That's one of those things I would have not guessed that the 135C would be in your top 5.
It's just so incredibly fuel efficient. And I mean, I have literally, like I said, you will not run out of hydrogen. You cannot run out of hydrogen fuel. Now, the 135C also, it does have I think it's 12 SCU. Is it 12 or is it 8? Let me go ahead and I will take a look. It seems like it's 12 SCU, but I've been a little SCU crazy. So let's just make sure we're looking at this guy correctly. I thought I would look here. I am looking at it now on Urkel. Does it say on Hercule? Shoot,
6.
6 SCU, which is fine. It's a little guy. But it's got a little bit. It's a lightweight. It's a light freight exploration type light freight vehicle. But it is the air system. That's that air fuel system. It just just doesn't run out of gas ever. It's 100% steeped in that particular pragmatism.
Well, here's the thing, and don't get me wrong, I love Origin ships. I find them, they have great lines. They look awesome. When I first started, backing the game, I had since melted it down, but, I had the 300 series, and when we could only go into the hangar and, just go mess around in your hangar and kind of like go into your ship and just kind of hang out and kind of do the and do the little shooty noises, thinking about the day when you could, fly out that hangar. Love that, love the 300 series. That 325A was one of my faves. I think that thing it's just awesome. It probably needs a little love these days. It's kind of needs a little rework, I'd say. And as it relates to combat, the wings seem to get shot off pretty easy. So, but absolutely, man, those Origins have some fantastic ships. I remember being able to just like going to a dealership and having the interior options that you wanted. Did you want wood trim? Did you want, did you want that brushed aluminum trim? Did you want a coffee maker in there? That type of thing. Those you can't go wrong with the Origin ships. I even seen where, like, when they were testing out the tractor beam functions, is that one of the ships that they were testing, where you could take that front nose gun off and slap a tractor beam to it was that 315P where they had a tractor beam on that guy. So there's a lot of versatility in these ships. I definitely like the Origin line. And you're right, those just kind of the little get around ships, something with tremendous fuel efficiency. That 135C is an awesome pick. That is really good. I'll tell you another little sleeper in that Origin line that I really, really like, and I use it every once in a while, is the 85X.
Absolutely. Great little ship.
That is a fun little ship. It's really cool. It's got dual seating. So it's kind of like, getting into a car in a way. And that's one of the things that, that I was going to express about that Origin line was, when I had that 325A, it reminded me of like a Mercedes interior.
Absolutely.
And I think they really hit those marks pretty well with that idea. And I'll tell you another ship that I found that's really great that I had for a little while was that 400i.
Yeah, that's a good ship, that 400i. I like that.
It really is. It really is, and it's one of those ships that's easy to get into. Has a lot of functionality to it, and kind of has that kooky yacht that kooky yacht look, you know.
It does. It's got that, yeah, exactly. It's got that. I don't know if they call it like a shark tooth front end, or like, yeah, some, where it's just like, yeah. I mean, the 400i is a cool ship. I mean, it's a very cool, like a luxury exploration ship. Now, I always think, like the 135C is like the Volvo S40 to me, or the one of those style of ships. I mean, it's definitely small. But it's got a bed, you know what I mean? But yeah, I agree. I mean, it is the styling. It is the fact that it's a little bit of a, it's got, the 300 series. I don't know if that's the one thing. We always talk about the fidelity of Star Citizen. And that's where you can really begin, like, there's a huge difference between Origin and Drake. If you just happen to just take a look at the little details. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And so, yes, you have your, like you said, your Mercedes or your BMW or your Volvo of, of the verse is definitely Origin. They've got their attention to detail on their trim is fantastic. They definitely have kind of, luxury, and I just, I think what happened to me with the 135C, I just want to say one last thing about it is, when I first started playing the game, and I think it was 3.11, that's when I watched this Obsidian Ant video, and Obsidian Ant had said, hey, there are, I don't know if you guys know this, but there are actual, loops, game loops in Star Citizen in the persistent universe. And I was like, wait, what? And I logged in, and I had two ships, and I had the Cutlass Black, which was my original ship that I pledged, and they were, for whatever reason, giving you the 135C at that time. Actually, I think they were giving you the 100i. It wasn't the 135C. It was the 100i. Yeah. And it just was in my, and I could, I did not understand how VTOLs worked very well, and I wasn't that good of a pilot, and I just was having a little bit of a harder time with the Cutlass Black. It makes me chuckle now thinking about it. But the 100i, I just flew all over Daymar because I was just astounded, that this game, had, like you could go to space and go to the atmosphere. And I think what I did is the first time I toured the Stanton system, I went to every place, every moon, every planet, and it was in the 100i. And I eventually decided, the 125A, it was like, it's a fighter. I'd probably get a little bit more of a pure fighter. But you know what? Cargo hauling or industrial gameplay is going to be my thing, and that's why the 135C kind of, hit both those marks. It was, it felt like I was a little upgraded from the 100i. Had a little bit more wiggle room for picking things up and hauling things around. Had a bed in it, and I just kind of fell in love with that ship. But the most important thing, like back in the day when I used to fly all over looking for things and looking at things, I couldn't run out of fuel. That air system was just it. So yeah, and you've spoken to it as well. The style, the style of Origin is fairly unique, in the verse, and yeah. And anyways, I think we can. That's probably as much as anybody's ever going to say about the 135C. I would imagine that's not going to be on very many people's top 5 list, but I just a special place in my heart. But I think as you guys have listened to me tonight, I like ships that have a lot of range. It's probably not lost. And a lot of my arguments tonight have been about range, and range is one of those things that I do like.
Well, as it relates to, the starter packages, do you think that 100 series is priced a little high?
I do.
For its starter package?
I wouldn't recommend the 135. I wouldn't recommend the 100 series as a starter pack. As much as it's on my top 5 list, and I'll just be bluntly honest and tell you, don't buy it. Buy an Avenger Titan.
Yeah.
That's a much more versatile ship. You're going to have the internal cargo space and a bed. more cargo space, and then a size, in a much more combat capable craft. So, or, quite honestly, I mean, I probably would, almost, I really like the Pisces too, but, if I had the choice between the, and it's it's much less expensive. So if you're going to be spending the money like on the 100 series, you're definitely going to want to go with an Avenger Titan. I think it's a better choice. And the 135C, even though it's on my top 5 list, it's not one that I'd recommend you buy. There are 2 ships on my list that I recommend you buy. Quite honestly, and I don't even know, I think the Constellation Taurus, when it was $150, it was a lot more attractive than it is at $190. Quite honestly.
Yeah. I mean, you can make the argument as like, well, it's just 40, it's just 40 more bucks. But yeah, it definitely was more attractive at its, at its concept price.
Yeah. So. I mean, I think I felt comfortable buying it at $150. For whatever reason, if I were looking at it today, $190, that's a lot of money for a ship. It seems like a lot more than $150 to me for whatever reason. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's it. 135C is my number 3. So, moving on.
I tell you what, you are surprising me tonight.
Yeah, man. I
thought I know you pretty well, but this is actually pretty great because. I would have missed a lot of these for sure. I definitely would have missed the 135. That you snuck that one by me. Now, the Terrapin, I knew you were a big fanboy of the Terrapin.
I love the Terrapin. I do.
That wasn't as big a surprise as say the 135. That was a big surprise.
The 135, I sneak into my stable early, and it's not one I talk about much to people, but I definitely, if I have to go around and looking for a corpse, if I know I'm going to be spending a long time in Atmo on a planet, and I don't need firepower, I just need to, something that's going to scoop me around fast, it's going to be really quick to accelerate, it's going to be able to land in tiny little places, and it's just never going to run me out of fuel. That 135C is an excellent runabout.
Yeah, it's a good ship. It definitely is something that I'd purchase in game.
100%, 1000% agree with that. I would not recommend the 135C is something that you purchase with real money. And quite honestly, that I wouldn't recommend buying the Terrapin with real money. Absolutely not. Even I would not recommend buying the M2 Hercules with real money. I think that's another in-game grinder.
No. Yeah, unfortunately, that
too expensive.
I feel at its pledge price, it is way too expensive.
I know the Terrapin's over $200, and not the M2's, if I'm not mistaken, is probably over $300. So
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
These are yeah. It's just because these are in Zel's in my top 5. You're going to have very few. There's going to be very few ships that I'm going to argue that you want to spend your real freedom dollars on if you're here in America or whatever. You don't. Yeah, you do not want to. There are only a handful of ships that I recommend that you actually part with your actual money for.
Yeah, we maybe for 318 we need to come up with a definitive list since Phil, a lot of people will be coming back to the game probably in 318. A lot of people coming back to the game in 317 too with with all the new missions and point of interest. It's pretty rich with a lot of new stuff to do. So
yeah, you're right. I think you're right. I think maybe a cool episode would be the ships you should buy, but also in that ships you should buy should be a list of the ones that you may be tempted to buy because they're how sexy they are, or that type of thing, but they're just too expensive for what they, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think, we definitely could have a fun list doing that.
Definitely, if we really need to put that together for 318. If you were going to spend your freedom dollars, what's the best bang for your buck? I definitely believe that should be one of them for sure. So, I guess we're up to number 2, right?
We are, yeah. Now, my number 2 already went as the Constellation Taurus. So, where are you at with number 2?
Yeah, the Reclaimer.
Wow. Now, that actually is a shocker to me. Interesting. You do love that ship.
Dude, I love that big monkey. She is awesome. And I can't wait for 318. Even if we're just getting hull stripping, I can't wait. That, it's so big and chunky and industrial. It just gives me the shivers.
It checks a lot of boxes.
It does. It's just so big. And I just find her just sexy. She's just sexy. Yes, she flies like
oh yeah, you took a giant strap and tied together like about 700 cargo boxes and then strapped engines to it. The flight characteristics on that thing are crazy.
That's a good analogy. It's like strapping a bunch of engines to an anvil, basically. So.
Yeah, it's another great analogy.
But still, gosh, man, I think she's awesome. We spent a little bit of time in industry teaching a lot of our guys how to fly that thing, and doing a lot of touch and go on pretty dense planets, getting in and out of atmosphere. We have spent a little bit of time in her. She's a force, and I think with the future gameplay, having the big grabby arm and being able to, rip chunks, out of ship hulls and chomp them up and put them in the chomper. They call it the chomper, and crush all that stuff up, and being able to send the drones out and use those to cut sections of hull out of the ship. And it just, this thing is just going to be fantastic. It's awesome. Yeah.
One of the things Zel and I talk about and I think, like, we touched about this a little bit with the Terrapin, like the possibilities, right? Like this gameplay loop where I'd love to go out and tag rocks. But one of the things that Zel and I definitely, I think, have this shared interest in is someday I hope to come across some derelict, just kind of junkyard where there was this huge battle that went on. And I think of like the Star Trek episodes where like the Borg just shredded. Like tons of...
There are like 40 ships out there floating pieces.
There's just pieces and parts, and all of a sudden, like, you're just taking something like the Reclaimer and you're just kind of working your way through, like you're kind of approaching this thing, and all of a sudden, you're just kind of beginning to, your salvage operations where, you've got kind of people EVAing off of that stuff, locating some key stuff, and you've got that, like you said, it's grabbing things, it's tearing them apart, it's munching them, it's, your entire salvage thing. And then, we've talked about like this, it's like all of a sudden maybe running across some gem of a ship, it's like, this thing's not that badly damaged. I think we actually can maybe restore this thing. Like that type of thing, and have like a ship that's, that's maybe a military variant that you just can't buy. The only way to get that thing working is is to restore one, and finding, having some kind of a thing where it sits in some kind of a dry dock or a space dock that you have running, and for a long period of time while you find the components to get that thing back operational, through salvage gameplay. I mean, you and I talk about that all the time, and really the Reclaimer is very central to that dream of that particular salvage dream.
Oh man, yeah, it's imagine going over and EVAing over, looking inside the ships, kind of looting what's left, pulling out the components. Maybe maybe they're like an alien ships, and you're kind of looting whatever you can off those alien ships. And Ed's, yeah, man, say we come across something you just, we know it's going to be there. They've already said that, the way to obtain some of these ships is you're going to have to find them, fix them, So, yeah, that we just, that's one of our big things that we're most excited for, right? I mean,
absolutely,
being able to go and just find, like you said, those old ships and those old unique ships that the only way to own them is to repair them, and getting a couple of SRVs and towing that thing back and start repairing it.
Yeah, some weird Vandal ship or something.
Yeah, man.
Man.
What if it's like a king ship or something like that, So yeah, that yeah. So excited about that.
Yeah, the Reclaimers, it's a great choice there. And of course, like we said, my number 2 choice, of course, was the Constellation Taurus, which we spent plenty of time talking about. So moving on to number 1s.
Well, since I haven't heard it yet, I think I know what both of our number 1s are.
It probably is both of our number 1s, and so without further ado, mine, of course, is going to be the Misk Prospector. I mean, that's my favorite ship in the game. I mean, I have spent a countless amount of hours in the Prospector, and right, of course, and I don't know if you can hear my daughter's. My daughter's dog agrees with that choice as well, so a little barking in the background. But yeah, no, the Prospector is one of those ships where it's got the bubble canopy, so you can see for days, on one side of the canopy or the other. I have spent so much time going over so many different surfaces, looking for Quantanium, looking for Bexelite, looking for Laranite and Terranite. I often say, a lot of people know me as somebody who teaches Quantanium mining, and I absolutely adore doing that. I cut my teeth on Agricium. Back in the day before there were refineries and you could just sell to any of your, I could sell to Port Alisar or whatever. I would just sell Agricium like crazy. I mean, it was easy to get. It was in abundance, and, you got paid a fantastic amount, and so, it got halved right when they put in the refineries. But yeah, I would just Agricium mine all day. I mean, I just loved it. The Prospector to me is the best ship in the game, because number 1, I love the mining gameplay loop. I love the fact that the hand mining, the ROC mining, and the prospecting and the mole all share a similar UI. So, there's a lot of cross-training that goes on. I adore mining in Star Citizen. It's really one of the most, it's one of the coolest gameplay loops I've ever been, that I've, did in a game. I mean, it's enjoyable to me like going fishing in real life. I mean, it's enjoyable to me. And that shouldn't be lost on anybody. It's just, the last 2 things I want to say about it is once you kind of get your feet with a Misk Prospector and you have it properly kitted, it prints in-game money. It is an absolute, it's a ship that I can go out for 2 or 3 hours and make $1 million. If I put I know people that have put the hammer down, they've got, 15, 20 jobs in the hopper in a day. It really is the ship that's it's crazy. You can just make money hand over fist in that game with that ship, and enjoy your time doing it. And so it opens up the rest of the game to you because your pockets are so deep. I mean, I have bought, tons and tons of ships. I mean, every ship I ever buy, I own the Prospector, I own the Taurus. The last thing, like I said, just to kind of finalize what I'd say about the Prospector, there are not many ships, like I said, that I'd recommend you actually pay your real money for. I do not have any problem telling you to spend your money on the Prospector. Do it. If you watch videos and you think you might like mining, or at least you're pragmatic enough to say that I recognize the fact that this is a way to make money that I would find enjoyable, it's a no-brainer. It will print once you kind of get the hang of the Prospector. It will allow you to buy any other ship in the game, and then by extension participate in any other game loop.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been our go-to ship. Where if people ask, it's like, I need to buy a ship. Which ship should I buy? We've always advocated, if you're gonna spend freedom dollars, and you want to get a jump start in the game, buy a Prospector. Especially when like you were saying, to be pragmatic. Until the game gets into its beta state, at least. We're gonna continue to have wipes, and if you plan on playing through the alpha, it's a no-brainer. I feel like owning the Prospector gets you back up to running speed a lot faster than any other ship in the game. It just does. If you want to buy your build your top 5 favorite ships back up for a couple of months, Prospector's the way to go. I can't say anything more about it. Yes. And guys, we didn't coordinate these lists, that is for sure. And the funny thing is that it's both of our number ones. Straight up. To me, I love the way that, the other day, we were listening to some folks and they were talking about just how crappy the Prospector flew, and, all these I was like, I kind of shook my head and was like, what the heck are these guys talking about? I love the way the Prospector flies. It has, the best field of view in the game. When you're out on these long runs and, looking for Quantanium, you can't beat it. I have fun. I've learned, how to, dance with her. She is just a great little ship. I can slide her around the, any moon surface at any speed, and, slide it one way and tilt my nose in another direction and scan that way, and then flip it back around, man. Hit those thrusters and pop it back around, and then scan in another direction at the same time, moving in that same lateral direction that I was moving in to begin with. I've learned how to use her kind of like how dirt track racers, race on a dirt track. I
That is
think
an excellent analogy.
Yep. I think she's awesome. She's just fantastic. And she is my favorite ship in the game.
Yeah. You're really speaking to a couple of things that are just absolutely true. I mean, their flight characteristics are very uniquely hers. The noises she makes when you turn her left or right, that kind of noise that she makes in the background. Everything about that ship I love. And here's the last thing I want to say, really speaking to the Prospector, is, Zel and I have said this a few times. I mean, we know that we're blessed to live in the year 2022. but we also are, understand that we're not going to see space travel like at the level that, say, 100 years from now, or 200 years from now, or 500 years from now. The one thing that Star Citizen absolutely kind of scratches the itch for, at the best level of fidelity, I would argue, and available today, especially for a multiplayer experience, is that you're flying spaceships around kind of alien worlds, and so the Prospector is one of those ships that when I climb into it, I truly believe that a V 500 years from now would love, if that was like literally my life was to fly like the Miss Prospector for real. I would love that. Like I would, work my half my life or whatever and save my money to be able to purchase one of those things, or get myself in some kind of a, in a mining organization where that, space mining would be, I'm sure it would be incredibly dangerous, but I would absolutely love to be like a heavy equipment operator, in a space mining operation. And the Miss Prospector kind of gives me that feeling, and so hands down, for me, the best ship in the game, the most enjoyable ship in the game, the most profitable ship in the game. And I could buy, much faster and much more enjoyable experience for me. I could buy all 5 ships, all the other ships on my list with the Prospector, and never ever grow tired of doing it.
Nope. And maybe that's, you and I, we have a lot of similar taste, and we share. We're pretty passionate about a lot of similar things. But yeah, absolutely, that style of gameplay, for us is just, it's just the best, and the very fact that that we get to kind of live it out in Star Citizen a little bit is it's pretty awesome. I mean, we can't wait to see when the game is fully fleshed out, and there's a lot more things, and yes, we love it all. And starting up the Explorers League and that philosophy that we are expressing into the idea of the Explorers League, it is exactly all that. It's the adventure, the exploration.
Yes.
It's the it's the industrial mining, salvaging. It's all these things that we all love in the game, and we can't wait to share it with a lot of like-minded individuals. So, would you like to just briefly give me some of a couple of, we'll say 2 that didn't make the list?
Yeah, honorable mentions. I think it's a great thing, and 2 very, very interesting. So my first honorable mention, I think, would be the Origin 315P, something you mentioned earlier tonight.
Okay.
And it's because I don't know of a ship that size that's going to have a tractor beam on it. You know what I mean? Like that to me, we've talked about the mining layers, where like you might be able to dual purpose your 315Ps as scouts, but then they also could potentially pull any of the big trash rocks away, or they could also, like after you've broken all the rocks down, they could actually make stacks. They could take all of your hundreds, and then all of your 50 to 99s, and then all of your, make 2, stacks where they can absolutely, ships with tractor beams that size can absolutely change the landscape. So yeah, that 315, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but just because it's a ship that size, that's that second step up size, that's going to have a very good sized tractor beam on it, the 315P is one of my honorables. How about you for an honorable?
Well, I kind of spoke a little bit about it earlier. It just barely made the list, but was the Herc M2 was my would have been my number 6. And we spoke a little bit about it, and while we absolutely like that ship as well. So what would your last alternate be? Your last honorable mention?
Boy, I tell you, I'm just gonna say, of course, I spoke about the MSR. It's on the list, but the last ship that I'm very interested in, just from a purely gameplay thing, is the Reliant Mako. That ship is is the reporting vessel. One of the things about the Mako that blows my mind, I don't know if have you ever been in the back of a Mako?
No.
It's got this incredible. You'll sit down in a seat, and it's got I think either 12 or 16 screens. And you're supposed to be able to kind of cut. It's like a news van, right? It's got all these screens on it, and you can kind of cut to the different scenes. And I have kind of watched some threads where people were like, boy, it'd be cool if you could plant remote cameras and have that Mako, look at all the different cameras, you know what I mean? And that type of thing. So you could set up these if you were doing news reporting, you could literally almost, it almost would be like having a stream deck type of thing, where, in the back where you have your master screen, and then you have all the different things that you may mix into it or whatever. So yeah, the whole, right now I don't think the Mako's in a great place, because when you go to do the report, when you go, the pilot can't be in the remote camera. There has to be a pilot and a cameraman, which, of course, I think makes sense in a way. But also when you use the camera, it's got a crosshair on it. So that's the other thing. If they made that camera where you could zoom really far, and it was almost like you were it's like you were an advanced version of the advanced camera controls. I really think that could be a lot of fun for, it could have some, a little bit of a cross roll, but just the reporting itself, I think would be fun. So yeah, the Reliant Mako is one ship that I, doesn't get a lot of mentions from people, but it's one I like keeping my eye on, because I'd love to see them flesh that out a little more. How about you for a last ship of the night?
Well, like I said, I probably got more of a list of 20.
Yes, I know. It's tough.
But I'm going to have to say, there's a lot of ships out there. And I kept it to, ships that are available in-game currently.
That makes sense.
I know that there's a lot of ships out there, and we most definitely should do a ship on the do a show on the on a list of our most anticipated ships that are coming to the game.
Yeah, the Liberator will be on there for me. Holy mackerel.
I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, I love that idea.
The Mole.
Ah, what an excellent choice.
For a lot of the reasons that we stated with, with the Reclaimer and the Prospector, we are we are a little bit more industrial driven. That is, that's for sure. We do like the whole idea of the adventure, getting out and having these adventures and exploring new places, and the exploration part of it. That's why it was kind of a toss-up with me right now with with that and the Carrick.
Oh yeah, both both of those deserve a mention for sure. And I just want to say one thing about the Mole, and in no way to steal any thunder in that capacity. I will quite honestly tell you, there is no ship in Star Citizen that I've had more fun on than a Mole. In the sense that if you have a couple, you have 2 or 3 people down on, and some people argue about efficiency. It's about fun. If you get through, if I'm piloting the Mole, or if I'm, mining in the Mole, but I usually am piloting, and I have 3 people down there on the lasers who are competent at what they do, and you're having just a kind of a fun night kicking back, drinking a wobbly pop and having a, having a go at mining. It's just flat out is one of the funniest funny things can happen. You can blow rocks up inadvertently. I mean, it is just a fun ship that also, if you happen to just come across the right rock, can literally have 800,000 AUEs trips out. So the mole's like one of those. Yeah, great pick there. And like I said, I think that's the ship I've had the most fun on in Star Citizen with other people.
Yep, it's one of those things. Just like with a lot of these other ships that we had spoken about before, we are also, probably, the most fun that we have in the game is when we're hanging out with other people.
Yes.
We love, multiplayer gameplay. And when we go out and do our mining nights, we have the most fun. You can get out and just, have a lot of fun. It's not a lot of stress. You're just, hanging out in one of the turrets, and, we got our crews out breaking rocks, and, we just run around just extracting all the rocks up, and, it's just a lot of fun. The mole is a lot of fun. You can have 5 people on that ship and just have a great time. You can. It's also, it's got that crazy industrial look that we like, and it's just a good ship. So yeah, that was my honorable mention.
Nice. Well, we can't get away without kind of at least saying, of course, the Carrack is the Carrack. I mean, if you've spent any time in the Carrack, it's, of course, the medical bay is a huge part of, its capability, but, in the game right now, but it actually is just an absolute wonderful ship to spend time on. And I like the Carrack a lot. It's not, I don't know that the Carrack would ever make a top 5 list for me because it's not exactly in my wheelhouse. But I have so much respect for that ship, what it brings to the table. And the last thing I just will say real quick before I let you riff on it a bit is a lot of some of the things that the Carrack are capable of, it's just not there yet. I think we've talked about that in the past, like the modularity, the drones, and some of these other things. They're just not there. But that ship, it will be there someday, and that is a great platform.
See, and I guess that's, I took it for granted for a long time. And when we, started kind of getting into it a little bit more, started using it a little bit more, the reason I like it so much is the possibilities. Currently, it's the only thing that kind of can scratch that explorer itch. Now, don't get me wrong, I know we're going to probably talk pretty extensively about other ships in the future that probably would be a better choice, but since we're kind of constrained to what is in game currently, that Carrack is that explorer's dream ship type thing.
Truly.
When some of the other other ships come into the game, will they garner more favor from me? Yeah, maybe. And we know which one we're talking about, right?
Yes, of course.
But yeah, so I think that'll wrap up what our top 5 favorite ships are for tonight.
Yeah, so that was kind of some parting words here before I let Zel kind of close us out for the night. As you probably heard in the beginning, this was kind of our homage to the ship showdown that's coming up here, starting on the 15th. And I haven't looked at the brackets yet. Don't know exactly what's going to happen here. Keep in mind this episode is going to drop available for listen on the 18th. And we recorded this on the 10th into the 11th, so a little bit ahead of the game. So, but I just a couple last things I want to say. Thank you all if you happen to make it this far. Definitely look for the links in the description about the Explorers League. We're super excited, industrial based. Strong industrial base that kind of feeds into the science and the exploration. And of course, a strong necessity for security as well. So we're really covering, all aspects of the gameplay, and super excited to be starting this community up. And we have a fantastic start already with some really, really good people. And so we're pretty blessed in that regard. So thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely evening or day, or enjoy your ride while you're cruising out there. Zel, take us away, sir.
See, this was a fun one.
Yeah, man.
We've had some good conversation the past couple of days. So I've really enjoyed it. And yep, you guys be in the next couple of weeks, keep your ears to the ground. We're definitely gonna be talking about the Explorers League a little bit more, and kind of explaining what the Explorers League is and what it's all about. This was kind of a little bit of a primer tonight, to kind of get it all going. We have a lot of big plans for the direction we want to take the Explorers League, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So you guys make sure to tune in for that. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button. You give us a thumbs up. And please, join us in the comments down below and tell us what you liked about this episode. Why don't you guys give us your top 5 ships in the game? I'd like to see that. How about you, V?
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah. If any of you made it this far and you want to put your top 5s in there, definitely put them in there. I think that would be nothing but fun for us to take a look at the ships that you think are the right choices.
Yeah, we'll have some conversation down below. So without further ado, we'll see you next week on another Rock Runners Report.